The Las Vegas Raiders have an important game coming up against the New Orleans Saints. There's a lot of buzz around this matchup and plenty of updates to share. On top of that, there's been talk about Antonio Pierce, Mike Frell, and who might be the Raiders' next head coach. There's an interesting rumor about this that we'll discuss later. We'll also wrap up by talking about Brock Bowers and the history he's about to make. But first, let's dive into the big headline: Derek Carr out plus Saints game. Preview and the injury report. Derek Carr, the former Raiders quarterback who now plays for the Saints, was a key topic when the Raiders decided to move on from him about 2 years ago. Everyone knew the Raiders would eventually face the Saints, and the NFL scheduled this game late in the season. This could have been a huge game if both teams were still in the playoff race. Imagine if the Saints were just a game or two away from the playoffs, and Carr had to take on his former team. Or, what if the Raiders were close, and Carr had the chance to ruin their chances? Unfortunately, both teams are out of playoff contention this year, and Derek Carr won't be playing. However, his absence still affects the Raiders in some ways. The Saints are a stronger team when Carr is leading the offense. Alongside Carr, other key Saints players will also miss the game, like Alvin Kamara, their starting guard Andres Pete, Eric McCoy, and Lucas Patrick. For the Raiders, this situation is tricky. Ideally, losing these last 3 games would be better for their draft position, but now, with so many Saints players out, the Raiders actually have a solid chance of winning this game, which could impact their draft stock. Last week, the Raiders played the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the outcome had a big impact on their draft position. Here's what happened. The Raiders dropped from having the number 1 overall pick in the draft to the number 6 pick. If they win this week's game against the Saints, their draft position could slip even further, from number 6 to number 9. That's a steep fall in just 2 weeks, and for Raiders fans, this is far from ideal. Dropping to the 9th pick doesn't necessarily mean the Raiders won't get a quarterback, though. Realistically, we won't know their exact draft position yet because the Jaguars and Titans also play this week, and there are still 2 weeks left in the season. A lot can happen. Fortunately, this year's draft class has 3 or 4 quarterbacks projected to go in the top 10 to 15 picks, so even if the Raiders drop to 9th, they could still land a solid quarterback. It's not the end of the world, but the draft positioning will definitely affect the team's future. As for this week's game, the Saints are starting a rookie quarterback and will be without key players like Derek Carr and Alvin Kamara. The Raiders, meanwhile, will also be missing some players, including starting guard Jordan Meredith. Jackson Barton will step in at left guard, and Andre James will continue at center. Overall, the Raiders are relatively healthy and ready to go for this matchup. This game is going to be interesting, especially for evaluating younger players. For example, DJ Glaze will face a tough challenge against the Saints' strong pass rush. The Saints still have a solid defense, so this game is a chance to see how Aiden O'Connell performs. While many fans might feel unsure about Aiden, he still has an opportunity to prove himself. Offensive coordinator Scott Turner has made some improvements, but the offense isn't scoring many more points. With no playoff hopes left, this game is all about seeing what these young players can do as we look toward the future. Winning games at this point might hurt the Raiders' draft position, but it also gives the team a chance to evaluate their players and decide who should stay for next season. For example, Clon Farrell has been showing some promise, and Andre Carter got a little playing time in the last game. While Carter only played a snap or 2, he looked solid and he's someone to keep an eye on. Wearing Cleveland Farrell's old number 99, Carter might get more opportunities this week, and it'll be interesting to see what he can do in a Raiders uniform. Now, shifting focus to a major update, Insider Report says Antonio Pierce might be fired. NFL insider Diana Rossini, formerly of ESPN and now with The Athletic, has reported that sources around the league believe Raiders head coach Antonio Pierce might be let go after the next 2 weeks. This news is creating a lot of buzz, as Pierce has been a hot topic among fans and analysts. Interestingly, when Pierce was asked about the Raiders' draft position, he seemed to deflect the question, suggesting that it's a job for general manager Tom Telesco. Some think this response, and other signs, hint that his time with the Raiders might be coming to an end. Owner Mark Davis's recent comments at an owners' meeting also add to this speculation. Based on what he said, there's a strong possibility the team will part ways with Pierce. It's understandable why the Raiders might move on. In today's NFL, Successful teams often have head coaches who can call plays and run their offenses effectively. While that's not the only way to win, most of the league's top teams have strong offenses, and those offenses are usually led by head coaches who are directly involved in play calling. If the Raiders want to succeed long term, finding a head coach who can lead the entire offense might be the way forward. When choosing a head coach, you're looking for someone who can commit to building a successful team for the long term, someone who might be around for 6 or 7 years, leading the team and calling plays consistently. This brings us to an interesting rumor. Mike Vrabel to the Raiders? There's talk around the league that Mike Vrabel could be heading to Las Vegas. The idea is gaining traction, especially since Vrabel has a connection to Tom Brady. The two were teammates for years, and with Brady now a minority owner of the Raiders, this move could make sense. Antonio Pierce, the current head coach, has done a decent job considering his inexperience. However, the second half of the season hasn't gone as well as the first. Some believe the Raiders might fire Pierce and bring in someone more experienced like Vrabel. Now, Mike Vrabel has had success as a head coach, but let's look at why that success happened. Much of it depended on the offensive coordinators he worked with. In a way, this mirrors what happened with Antonio Pierce, whose struggles this year were largely due to his decision to hire Luke Getsy as offensive coordinator, a move that arguably cost the Raiders several games. Vrabel's record with the Tennessee Titans also shows how much his success depended on his offensive staff. Before Vrabel joined the Titans, the team went 9-7 in the 2 previous seasons. In Vrabel's first 2 years, they also went 9-7. The key difference in those early years was Vrabel's offensive coordinator, Matt LaFleur, who is now the head coach of the Green Bay Packers and one of the best in the NFL. In that first year under LaFleur, the Titans' offense ranked 15th in points scored, a solid performance. Vrabel's early success with the Titans also involved rebuilding Ryan Tannehill's career and putting the team on a better path. If he joins the Raiders, it will be interesting to see how his past strategies translate to a new team and whether he can bring the same level of success to Las Vegas. Mike Vrabel's early success with the Titans was heavily influenced by his offensive coordinators. In his first year, he had Matt LaFleur, who later became the head coach of the Green Bay Packers. LaFleur's leadership helped the Titans achieve a solid offense, ranking 15th in points scored that season. After LaFleur left, Vrabel brought in Arthur Smith as the offensive coordinator, and for the next 2 years, the Titans had a top 10 offense. Under Arthur Smith, the Titans went 9-7 in Vrabel's second year, and then won 11 games in his third season, even reaching the AFC Championship game. Smith's success earned him the head coaching job with the Atlanta Falcons in 2021. This is where things started to change for Vrabel. He hired Todd Downing as the new offensive coordinator, and although the team went 12-5 in that first season under Downing, the offense began to decline. The Titans dropped from being a top 10 offense to ranking around 15th in points scored. The following year, with Downing still in charge of the offense, the Titans' performance dipped even further, landing in the bottom 10 offensively. Vrabel eventually fired Downing and brought in a new offensive coordinator, but by then, the damage was done. Vrabel himself was let go in the middle of the season. This pattern shows that Vrabel's success as a head coach was closely tied to the quality of his offensive coordinators. The same could be said for Antonio Pierce. A head coach can only do so much if their offensive coordinator isn't delivering results. Imagine if the Raiders had hired someone like Matt LaFleur after his first season with the Titans, or even Kyle Shanahan or Sean McVay in earlier years. The Raiders could have had a strong offensive system in place, giving them a better chance at long-term success. Ultimately, the lesson here is that a great offensive coordinator is crucial for any team's success, and it's something the Raiders need to prioritize as they move forward. The key to consistent success in the NFL often lies in hiring the right head coach, someone who can also serve as the offensive leader. When you hire a strong offensive mind as your head coach, you're not just building for the present, you're setting the team up for long-term stability. A great offensive head coach isn't going to leave for another team like an offensive coordinator might. However, we've seen with coaches like Mike Vrabel and Antonio Pierce that failing to secure the right offensive coordinator can jeopardize even a solid head coach's career. Their success heavily depends on the staff they surround themselves with, and when that staff underperforms, the head coach often pays the price. Let's take another example. Dan Campbell with the Detroit Lions. Over the past couple of years, Ben Johnson has led one of the best offenses in the NFL, which has been crucial to the Lions' success. But what happens if Ben Johnson leaves? It's hard to imagine Campbell replicating that level of success without another offensive mind of Johnson's caliber. I wouldn't be surprised if, within the next 2 years, Campbell's future with the Lions becomes uncertain unless he can find another exceptional coordinator. Now, as for Mike Vrabel, would I take him over Antonio Pierce? Sure, he's had proven success and has more experience, but I don't think hiring him is the best long-term solution. The Raiders need to prioritize hiring a head coach with an offensive background, someone who can not only build and run an offense, but also develop a young quarterback. That's the direction the Raiders should be headed. Brock Bowers, a record-breaking rookie. Switching gears to an exciting development, rookie tight end. Brock Bowers is on the verge of making NFL history. Bowers, playing for the Raiders, is about to break a couple of long-standing records, one of which has been unchallenged for over 60 years. In 1961, the legendary Mike Ditka set the rookie tight end record with 56 catches for 1,076 yards while playing for the Chicago Bears. Now, Bowers is set to surpass that milestone, proving to be an incredible asset for the Raiders. This kind of achievement not only highlights Bowers' talent, but also gives fans a glimpse of a promising future for the team. Let's see how the season wraps up for this rising star. It's incredible to think that no rookie tight end has come close to Mike Ditka's 1961 record of 1,076 receiving yards. That is, until now. Brock Bowers is just 10 yards away from surpassing that milestone, and with 2 games left in the season, it's almost certain he'll set a new benchmark for rookie tight ends. But that's not all. Bowers is also on the verge of breaking the rookie catch record for all players, a record set just last year by Puka Nacua with 105 receptions. Bowers is only 5 catches away from overtaking Nacua, which means he's likely to end this season with 2 historic achievements: the most receiving yards and the most receptions by a rookie tight end. Honestly, when the Raiders drafted Bowers, I was skeptical. Tight ends usually take a year or 2 to adapt to the NFL and rarely make an immediate impact. But Brock Bowers, he's a different story. He's shown that he's not just ready to play. He's ready to dominate. To put it plainly, Bowers doesn't just excel as a tight end. If he were playing as a full-time slot receiver, he'd still be one of the best wide receivers in the league. His skills are that remarkable. This rookie season is shaping up to be one for the history books, and Bowers is proving to be an incredible asset for the Raiders. Let's see how far he can push those records before the season ends. Let me know your feedback. Brock Bowers is an exceptional football player, and his skill set is truly unique. Not only can he catch passes, but he also makes defenders miss, breaks tackles, and powers through opponents. He's incredibly tough to bring down, and that sets him apart from other tight ends in the league. Most tight ends don't have this kind of physicality. Take Darren Waller, for example. He's an amazing player. He runs great routes, he's tall, athletic, and makes big plays. But he doesn't break tackles like Bowers does. Honestly, even someone like George Kittle, who's known for his toughness, doesn't break tackles the same way. The Raiders made an excellent choice drafting Bowers. He's already proving to be a generational talent, not just as a tight end, but as an all-around player. With just 5 more catches and 6 more yards, he's on the verge of breaking 2 major rookie records. It's likely to happen in the next game, and it'll be exciting to watch. What do you guys think about Bowers' performance this season? Do you think he'll hit those milestones in the next game? And how do you feel about Antonio Pierce and the Raiders' future? Drop your thoughts in the comments, give this video a thumbs up, and subscribe for more updates. See you next time.